This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we're the ones who've always encouraged you to like and share them on social media and with all your friends and neighbors, because it's time for Nutrition World in downtown Fort Pierce to present Joanne's World of Nutrition with your host, the one and only Joanne Seeger.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having an incredible morning. I'm loving the weather we have here in the Treasure Coast. Cool enough to just feel brisk and energize you. So I hope everyone's feeling safe, happy, at peace, joyful, all that good stuff this morning. And it's that time of the month where I have my favorite guest on. Good morning, Burt Goulding Jr., Clinical Nutritionist. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. But before we even begin, I have a big question for you. So I have my son that I drive to work in the mornings, and he's just coming out of feeling under the weather, okay? He drank out of my water bottle. So I have that, and I also have in the vehicle my husband's coffee cup that is predominantly mushroom coffee with a touch of caffeine. So which one do I drink during the show with you? The water bottle that might have cooties in it, or a little bit of caffeinated coffee? Which will upset you the most? I don't know what to do. I'm really at a conundrum here. But the coffee smells really good, Bert. It really does. So if you're listening new, welcome to the show. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because Bert has told me and my listeners many times over the years not to drink coffee. So I have given it up, but it does smell really good, Bert. So I don't know what to do, because my son was feeling pretty sick yesterday. So I'm not sure how much cooties he still has left in him. So what should I pick?
I think you just have to go with what makes you feel more confident.
That's why I love you. Okay, so we're gonna go with the coffee one. It's just so warm, and I know it's just a tiny bit of caffeine. So, all right. Well, good morning, Bert. How are you this morning?
Good, good.
Good. Happy Valentine's Day.
I know. When Carrie said that we might be talking about heart health today, that was easy to remember because it's Valentine's Day.
I know. Matt asked me this morning, and my stepdaughter kind of had him step up to the plate with Valentine's. I came down to a card. We've been married 6 years, and I never really cared about that stuff. But yeah, he got me a card and a beautiful plant, and so thank you, honey. But I figure, why not talk about the heart if it's Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I love about you, Bert, and your clinical nutrition background is that sometimes in the medical system, we look at the symptomology in just that organ. If there's something wrong with the heart, it must be just about the heart. But I love how you have our listeners understand that it's not just about the heart. It's about the whole body, the energy, the capillaries, the arteries, the everything. So I think we're going to have fun today trying to help our listeners understand how the heart is connected, mind, body, and soul, right?
Yeah, that sounds great. It,
All
it
right.
is. I mean, just recently I've been really studying a lot about metabolic syndrome and obesity, and because metabolic syndrome is when the hypothalamus is damaged, and we know that from the hypothalamus rebalancing diet. But it's interesting that liver health affects the heart more than I guess anybody knows. No one's been talking about that. But if you have a sick liver, and it's now over 60% of the people in the United States, adults, have a very sick liver. A lot of them have what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So it leads to cirrhosis, which often leads to death, and it's not typical thing of drinking alcohol, which also, of course, destroys the liver. But this is from people that are not getting enough fiber and have way too much sugar in their diet, and it causes fat to be created and be stored in the liver, and that affects the heart. I mean, that probably leads to more heart attacks than just about anything else.
And what's so sad, Bert, is they're saying that the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is affecting children as young as 8 years old. And they do believe it's from, the fruit juice, the smoothie drinks. And as you and I both know, you can go into a place that appears healthy and they give these big, huge smoothies and they might have up to 100 grams of sugar in them. And just the other day, I mean, I saw a mom give a toddler, maybe 18 months old, a sweet tea at a restaurant, like those big containers. I almost cried, So yeah, and it's contributing to this terrible condition. So I'm glad you brought it up because again, definitely an issue with that fat. All right, go on, sir.
No, what are the questions that your listeners and your customers have about the heart?
Well,
the big question?
I think the biggest thing is that most people seem to be waiting for their annual blood test to see if their cholesterol markers are in range, and then they feel that sense of security, that they're just over the line or they're at the normal range, so they don't have to worry about heart disease and strokes. And I don't want to induce fear in them, but I also want to educate them that that's not the true picture. So I thought maybe you could help us understand what would true health for the heart look like and how to take care of the heart, because we both know prevention is so much more important than waiting for a flag to come up in our life. So can you maybe discuss what a heart healthy lifestyle looks like and what supplements would be part of that plan?
Well, what's really interesting, I've never heard this before until I started really studying over the last 3 or 4 weeks, is that 80% of the LDL that shows up on your blood test, the so-called bad cholesterol, the low density lipoproteins, so LDL, 80% of that is type A, which is not dangerous in any way, doesn't ever lead to heart disease. And only 20% is type B, which is the part that can be problematic and that can cause damage in the arteries. So if you're going to do that kind of a blood test, get your doctor to do one more test that differentiates how much is type A, which is the harmless LDL, and how much is type B, so that you really know what you're dealing with. But a healthy heart, would have a good heart rhythm, would I guess one of the big things that's coming back that we need to do right now is to get one of the fingertip pulse oximeters
Oh,
and
yep.
to test our oxygen levels at the extremities. So that's really, really important. I mean, oxygen getting to the heart muscle and the heart tissue is, we think of the heart helping oxygen get everywhere else, but the heart itself needs oxygen. And that's really when a doctor is talking about, oh, we may have to do a bypasses. It's just saying there's not enough blood or not enough oxygen getting to the heart muscle itself.
Right. I was mentioning that why I love breath work so much is that when you want those cells to carry oxygen into your mitochondria of all your other cells, you have to get some good oxygen into your body. And a lot of it's our responsibility to get that breath work in or those nice deep breaths. So I love that. And Bert, a note on the LDL. I came across a study, but to be quite honest, I couldn't put my fingers back on it, that the LDL, the type you're talking about, the good part, also kills bacteria, like bacteria that's not needed in our body. The LDL, the good type LDL, does kill that bacteria. So I think we're discovering new things every day that we're misunderstanding in the heart cardiovascular world. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
the type A, the good LDL is called large buoyant because it floats through the bloodstream, and like you say, can do some good things, uh, killing bacteria. I mean, it it not only is neutral, but it can do some really good things. The um, the dense type B LDL is heavy, so it falls right to the bottom of the artery or the blood vessel, and it can damage uh, the arterial wall or the blood vessel wall. But yeah, I mean, think of
no.
how many years people have been talking about LDL and HDL, and then to have this new information come out, it just means we don't know everything yet,
Right.
right? I
But there
mean,
are young cardiologists that I've noticed giving my customers that more detailed blood test where they really break down all the types of cholesterol, and they don't even care if you have that high cholesterol number. They are looking for the particle size and the ratio. They're looking at your homocysteine levels. They're really looking at your whole life. And I'm so thankful that there are new cardiologists that are opening their mind to the possibility that their old way wasn't working, isn't working. You know, just lowering cholesterol is not what any of us have thought was the right way for a long time. So they're finally starting to listen, I believe. I hope.
well, yes, it turns out that when um, saturated fat was given a bad name, it was all based on flawed science. Even the scientists that had come up with the idea that we needed to lower our fat and lower our saturated fat and lower our cholesterol knew that it was wrong and still published it and made it a part of the uh, US government's dietary guidelines, even though he knew it was completely wrong. It was called the Seven Nation Study, and this was back in the 1960s and early 1970s. But it turns out that there were 22 countries that were surveyed to try to find the correlation between high cholesterol or high fat and heart disease. And the 22 nations, 15 of them, so 2/3 in the study, went against the hypothesis that it was fat and cholesterol related. So like so many studies for pharmaceuticals and science is if you've got 2/3 of your subjects that don't promote your hypothesis, you just exclude them. So he took 15 nations out of there with the 7 that were left, came in and said, oh yeah, it's all fat related and we need to avoid fat and saturated fat. Turns out saturated fat is one of the best fats that you can possibly get into your body.
Yes.
It just,
Absolutely, and I definitely agree. But unfortunately, still, you get those phone calls if you are flagged that the first advice they give you is, oh, start eating more carbs and less meat. And I just still baffles me that they're using that sentence. There is information. If any of my listeners want to go onto YouTube, there was a low carb summit in Colorado that I've been listening to parts of. It's very lengthy. I think it was a 2-day summit, maybe 3 days. So there's lots of accredited doctors. There's one orthopedic surgeon that's really got a name for himself as a carnivore. They really have some solid evidence about how eating saturated fat does not create heart disease. So if you want to explore that and just kind of open up, and again, it's just a suggestion. I was a vegan a long time ago. Didn't suit my body at all. I felt the worst I ever felt. Um, so, just you need to choose your path, but you might want to just really get as much information before you make that decision. And if your body's working great, then go for it. But again, if it's not, maybe explore some other areas. So, it's and the one of the summit during the summit, he did say, which kind of upset me because, I'm still in my little box, that the group that they studied just used regular meat products, like it wasn't grass fed, grass finished, it wasn't ethically raised. It was like just standard animal food products, and they still reaped extreme health benefits. So it kind of was like nice to my budget financial ears. I was like, oh, because I'm spending so much money on the good stuff, you know? But in my heart, it kind of hurt a little because I was like, wait a second, you know, but I'm still going to go with the ethically raised, you know, grass fed, grass finished mentality. It just suits me better. It makes me feel a little happier because, you know, I do have an issue with animals being mistreated and all that kind of yucky stuff. Ah, all right. So,
Well, yeah, and with beef or bison that is not grass-fed and grass-finished, it ends up with a lot of marbling, and everybody says, "Oh, yes, I can cut this steak with a spoon after I cook it because it's just so soft." And that's not real beef or real bison. I mean, in Argentina, they eat only grass-fed and grass-finished. There's no such thing as feeding grain of any kind to cattle. And a lot of people would say, oh, it's just a little bit tougher, but it tastes really good. That marbling, that fat that ends up in the grain-fed cattle or grain-fed meat of livestock of any kind is an evidence that the animal was sick, very, very ill. And so here we're eating the things that cause the sickness. So you don't want to have that marbling.
wow, I didn't know that, Bert. Okay. You teach me something on every show. Okay. So, oh, wow, that's kind of gross. All right. So, all
Well,
right.
and
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 I
and
had been to Argentina, and you're right, because I do remember, you know, they treat their cattle so well. And when I had a steak there, there was no marbling. It was just a beautiful, beautiful steak. And it still was very tender. And, you know, so my
yeah,
vegetarian listeners might be like rolling their eyes right now, but
well, and there are so many restaurants that just their pride and joy is saying, "Oh, we have, Iowa corn-fed beef," and you're going, that's
corn.
yeah, I mean, it's just not, they're saying that all of the uh, cattlemen in Argentina would never think of using any kind of grain with cattle. They're just like, why would you do that? And
Right.
it does make the animal kind of sick. It makes them gain weight, but it's kind of a obesity driven weight because that means you're giving the animal sugar. Just like the worst problem that we have in the United States. It turns out that if you had taken all 22 nations in that study where they got rid of all the ones that didn't say that cholesterol and fat were the problem, and then still published. But if you took the whole 22, the only thing that really correlated with heart attacks and heart disease was sugar consumption. But
Yes.
back in the 60s and 70s, no one wanted to talk about that. But we're not talking about just a normal sugar. But I was, the more that I'm learning, the more that I'm actually applying, and I'm always kind of the guinea pig to see, okay, how do I feel? How does it work? Before I talk to anybody else. But it's been 3 weeks now that I've increased the fiber, and it's amazing to see what has changed in my body in just the last 3 weeks. And everybody says, oh yeah, I understand about fiber, but it has to be how much of the total carbohydrates is fiber. Okay, so that means a person needs to be looking at that. The goal is that if you have 20 grams of carbohydrates per serving, that you have 4 grams of fiber. That's 20% of the total carbohydrates, right? 20 grams times 20% is 4 grams. If you have 20% or more, which you find in chia seeds and flaxseed and organic hemp hearts and lentils and I've been having this lentil barley soup that my wife's been making for me, and
Oh,
I've been
that
eating
sounds
it
yummy. Yeah.
almost every day. It's got celery in it. It's just it's homemade, so we go through and make this thing, and I've been eating it for probably one meal every day, and it's just changed everything. I mean, I feel great. I'm not counting calories right now, and because I've lost the weight, but even now my uh, muscle mass is going up and my visceral fat is going down. So I'm just excited that there are things, if we gain the knowledge and then put it into practice, even if you're just testing it out to see, do I feel better? How do I feel? And that affects the heart. It really does. I mean, your heart health is kind of the sum total of everything else. If you're pH balanced and your body, where your weekly fasting saliva test brings you a pH that you're in the healing range of 7.1 to 7.5, then it's literally impossible to have a heart attack, because all heart attacks and all strokes happen when a person's clear fluid pH, which means the pH of the whole body, when your acid alkaline balance, when you get into the acid range, and especially when you're down at 5.5 or 5, and a lot of people in the country that's where all heart attacks and strokes happen. So we really can't talk about heart health without talking about pH, because that, if you stay balanced, then even if you have a super stressful day or a super stressful week, you're still starting in the healing range at that 7.1 to 7.5. So even if it drops into six area or the fives, it gives you a chance to test the next week, see that you're down, turn it around before it leads to that severe acidic condition that causes a heart muscle seizure that we call a heart attack, or an artery muscle seizure that we call a stroke.
So, Bert, some people that are getting annual or semi-annual blood tests, they do have a pH segment on their test. Is that the same as when they do your testing strips with the mouth, the mouth mucosal? Because there are some people that haven't listened to you on the show before about the difference between urine pH and the mouth pH, and why pH is so important in general. So I think what we should do is we should go on a break, and then we're at the half-hour mark just about. So when we come back, let's go more deeper into pH, because we haven't talked about that for a while, and just cover the basics. Sound good? All right, we'll be right back, everyone. We're Burt Goulding Jr., clinical nutritionist, joining us from California, and we'll be talking about pH and the heart in just a moment. Hi, this is Joanne from Nutrition World and Wellness Center. I am really excited to introduce new guests and topics to my show every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. here on WPSL, where my listeners can call in on any topic. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find it. We want to help you become the best version of yourself. We'll have naturopaths, coaches. I am looking forward to sharing my years of experience with my listeners so we can enjoy this life journey together.
Visit Joanne's Nutrition World in the Kras Square, formerly known as the Arcade Building, located at US 1 and Orange Avenue, across from Fort Pierce City Hall. Open Monday through Friday from 10 to 4, Saturdays 10 to 3. Taking appointments for the Wellness Center online at joannesnutritionworld.com or call 772-464-3598. Join Joanne Seeger as she guides the Treasure Coast to health, one person at a time, on Joanne's World of Nutrition, Wednesday mornings at 10 on WPSL.
I am so excited to share with all my listeners all the cutting-edge health topics of today. I look forward to hearing from you. Remember, it's a live call-in show. Any questions you have on health and nutrition, I look forward to answering.
Join us here for Joanne's World of Nutrition every Wednesday morning at 10 on WPSL.
And now we return to Joanne's World of Nutrition. Once again, here's Joanne Seeger.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. I was caught reading on my phone. So welcome to the show. Thank you for spending some time with us this morning. We know everyone's in a busy world, so we really do appreciate you spending time here. We have our favorite guest, Burt Goulding Jr., clinical nutritionist from California. We are talking about some positive power nutrition products. We always strive to help our listeners learn about something new. I always learn something new when I have Burt on the show with me. We try to make it about nutrition, education, We never try to sell you on things, but when we have good products that really help, multifaceted products, we do like to bring them to your attention. So right now, Bert's talking about pH, and he does have these incredible pH strips. So we're going to go into that conversation a little deeper. And we're also correlating it with heart health because it is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. All right, Bert. So I asked before the break about the pH, and to be quite honest, when I'm doing my scanner with my clients and they come and bring in their blood tests, it gets a little overwhelming, especially when they have really good insurance and it's like a 10-page blood test. It's like, okay, here you go, figure this out. So I do try. I try to learn as much as I can each and every day, especially from you. So can you help me understand, like, I use your pH strips, I use your cell power liquid to try to regulate my pH because I know how critically important it is. But what is the difference with that pH on a blood test and urine pH, and when you tell us to do it on a plastic spoon? Could you help me understand that world a little better?
Yes, when you see a pH number on a blood test, it always looks really good. It's usually showing it's in the between 7 and 7.5, and you're going, oh, my pH is great. But it's not the pH of your body at all. What they're doing is they have to do a pH test of the blood, and it basically means that we tested the blood before it died. Because not your body, it's not the pH of you, it's the fact that the sample that's in the test tube, it's sent to the lab. And what if it gets stuck in the back of the refrigerator and
Oh,
isn't actually tested before it's no longer even alive? So, it's basically just a test that, yes, the test results should be accurate because the blood hasn't, uh, it's not old, it's not
that
starting
makes
to
sense.
coagulate or anything else, but everybody looks and goes, oh, that's so great. And I just look at it, well, that's a positive thing. That means you understand the two letters pH, small p, capital H, but to find out what your body is, if you do a urine test, you're only testing what is maybe 1 or 2% of your body weight, and it's the waste. It's what your body's getting rid of. Okay, so if everybody says, oh, it's really acidic in my urine and I'm trying to get that up into the alkaline. No, you don't ever want to get that in the alkaline, ever. The only healthy urine score would be in the sixes, from 6.0 to 6.9, somewhere in there. But I just tell people, don't even test it because it's confusing. And if you happen to have a urine test where it's in the sevens, where it's gone alkaline, that's an indication of possible kidney failure, in the future, the near future. So that's not a good thing. If it's in the alkaline range, you want to go see your doctor and have them check your kidneys and make sure you're okay. But when you test the clear fluids, which make up over half of our body mass or our body weight, it means that 56% of our body mass, when we step on the scale, if it whatever it says, 56% of that is clear fluids. It's the cerebral fluid inside of our, cushioning our brain. It's the spinal fluid, the lymphatic fluid, which is 4 times as much as the blood. So it's all the clear fluid. It doesn't include the blood. The blood always has to be in the healthy range, or else you die. If it ever goes down to 6.9 in your blood, you're already passed away. Okay, so we're not testing the blood, we're testing, and the only way to get to that clear fluid that is easy is with saliva. So I think I mentioned this before, some of the saddest things I have is when somebody says, well, I can't generate any saliva. I have this problem where my body won't make saliva. And they're saying, well, so how do I test it? And I said, there's no safe, easy way to test what your true pH of your body is if you can't generate at least a half of a spoonful of saliva. And you want to do that at least 3 hours after you've had any food, even one cranberry or one cashew. So the easiest way to make sure, because everybody says, oh, I haven't eaten in 3 hours, and they just are snacking unconsciously. Don't we always do that? Talking about and you realize, oh, what have I been putting in my
Yep.
mouth? What have I been chewing? So the easiest way to do that is when you first wake up in the morning. For my wife and I, and when our children are all adults now, but when they were at home as minors, the whole family would test every week. And we started doing that 18 years ago. Okay, and we have been in the healing range after about the first 2 weeks of getting balanced. You get balanced and the body wants to stay there. We've been in the healing range every week for the past 18 years, except for maybe 3 times. And when it went out of range, I was like, uh-oh, what's going on? And it led me to look at my whole life and find out what was the problem.
I love that. And what do you consider the healing range?
It's 7.1 to 7.5. So if
Beautiful.
it's 7.0, you're not acidic, but you're not actually generating the right amount of electricity flow through your cells. And that's what pH is, a measurement of how many microvolts of electricity are being transmitted cell to cell, especially through the connective tissue, which is where the higher amount of electricity goes through all your connective tissue and not through the nerves. The nerves are like the old phone lines. I know everybody's walking around with a phone now, and it's not a landline, but if it was the landline, yes, there was an electrical voltage to it, but it's really low voltage. You know, you accidentally cut the wire on a phone line, it's not going to electrocute you. So that's what the nerve system is. It's to communicate. So whether we want to call that our internet, Ethernet cable for internet, again, there's voltage, but it's not enough to harm you. Whereas if you cut into, you know, the line that's going to your refrigerator or to your television, whatever else, you know, that 120 volts and however many amps, that is a higher electricity, and that's what's going through the connective tissue. And that's how, when we do a test on the acupuncture points, on the meridians, it turns out that you can get a really, really good test and a really strong signal of what's going on in the body because it's a higher electricity.
Well, this is a perfect segue because as we understand that our body has to communicate from head to toe everywhere for it to work in balance and not create any illnesses, like you mentioned that the blood, it needs to stay at a perfect pH. And so when it's not, you know that it's in the illness stage and possibly getting ready to die. So so if your body isn't in the clear tissue, isn't in the right pH, then that blood is going to start having to compromise somewhere where you're kind of like not doing the right choices, I guess. I hate to put it that way, or overstressed, not, having some tools to handle your stressors in life, or getting good sleep, getting fresh air and exercise, all those good things. But for the people out there that really want a supplement to help them stay in the correct pH, would Cell Power be the appropriate pick?
It really is. I mean, um, you can get into the healing range without forcing the body there. It's not like somebody that goes to drink a really high pH alkalized water and they're trying to somehow say, I'm going to force my body to get out of the acidic range, and it doesn't last, and it's potentially dangerous if you do it without testing your pH every week, your saliva pH. But with Cell Power, you can get in the healing range, and then your body wants to stay there, and it will stay there on its own. And it only takes about 4 to 10 weeks to be pH balanced, even for people that are starting out at 5.25 or 5.5. If you're like most people, you're between, right around 6.5, but yeah, it's still acidic. To give you an idea, at 6.25, you have 10 times as much acid in your body as what's healthy.
Wow.
If you take 10 healthy people and were to take all of their acidity and put it into one person, that would be the 6.25 to 6.5. At 10 times, that's where I find most people that come to me to have nutrition work done and they have cancer. They're expecting, oh, well, I know the acidity feeds the cancer, so I must be in the 5s. And they're always so shocked that they come up at 6.25 or 6.5. And they're like, well, that's where most cancer, even fourth stage or end stage cancer, lives at 10 times the acidity, has plenty of acid to eat. That's what actually fuels the cancer cells, is the acidity. So because you don't have to be, if you have 5.25 on your fasting saliva test, that means you have 100 times the acid you're supposed to have. That's why you're right on the edge of a heart attack. Of course, you would be having a heart attack because you have all the acid of 100 healthy people all concentrated just in you.
Yep. I always tell my clients, watch out for the two S's for acidity, sugar and stress. Because they both things can creep into your life real easy without you even knowing they're there. So many people think, well, I don't pour, that white table sugar ever into my life. And I'm like, well, the malts, the syrups, I mean, gosh, it's in every food product now. And stress is everywhere, judgment, guilt, shame, jealousy, resentment. Oh, it's everywhere. All right. So, Cell Power, if you're interested, it's a liquid, very economical. It has like this natural lime essence it gives off, great for your water bottles. I would definitely suggest that whether you're local and you can check it out at the store, or online, Positive Power, Cell Power. I would say, is that your most famous product, Bert? Cell Power?
Yes, it is. And
Okay.
it used to always be the number one seller. I mean, it's been around for 75 years now, since 1949. But
Let
about
me
3
guess,
years,
Super Silica beat it?
yeah,
Yeah.
super silica
All
passed
right.
up cell power, and there people were just kind of shocked. But I think it's because silica deficiency has reached a point where it's just noticeable for everyone. We have people that will look at the 10 levels of silica deficiency. The most uh, common, the most prevalent is level -1. So as a deficiency, it runs from -1 down to -10 or even -11. But most people have -1, which is damaged hair, skin, and nails. But then they'll look at, if they have that, they tend to look at the list of all the deficiencies and they go, I have all of these.
Exactly.
Because your body is first borrowing silica from the hair, skin, and nails to try to use it to protect you from environmental poisons. And by environmental, I guess food poisons is part of our environment, but all of those poisons, silica has to keep us alive. And so the body will keep borrowing it and borrowing it until finally it's borrowing it from the veins, from the arteries, from the heart, from the brain, uh, from the intestines. But you get down to -10, it's actually borrowing it from all of the cells of the body, which they don't have a lot in every cell, but when you've got trillions and trillions of cells, it's borrowing it from that. And at -10, that's where people end up with fibroid tumors and all of the so-called autoimmune disorders,
Oh,
from
yeah. There's a
lupus,
million now.
Hashimoto's,
Yeah.
rheumatoid arthritis, all of that, because when your cells have given up, not all the silica, because then the cell dies. There's no living cell, plants, animals, or humans. There's no biologically living cell that can survive without silica. As soon as all the silica is gone, the cell death occurs. But if it's lost a lot of its silica from the cell, then it can no longer identify itself to your immune system that it's part of your body. And so your immune system attacks it like it's a foreign invader, because it can't broadcast that DNA ID that proves that it's part of you.
I love that. I love Super Silica. And Super Silica is the one, if you've ever been in my store, you'll always see me putting my drops into my glass water bottle that I left at the store. I could die for it right now. That coffee isn't doing anything for me. It's like, ugh, not fresh. But I would say, so I'm glad we touched on Super Silica because obviously important for the heart too. But we must talk about the one about super circulation, because I know that the fluid-filled sac that protects the heart, I'm thinking Cell Power, Super Silica, keep those clear fluids energized and the communication going. but also the arteries, the capillaries, all these things. A lot of people are experiencing, where they're having valves opened up because whether they're blocked or there's they're removing one vein here to put another vein there, and things are, I'm like, it's scary. It's just like they keep taking things away, or closing things up to make up for another area. So super circulation, I love your formula. It's so encompassing and I'm thinking the heart definitely is going to have a benefit with super circulation. You want to tell us the story behind super circulation?
Yes, it's the h- highest selling product of all of the capsules that we have is the super circulation. I mean, it's I've been taking 6 capsules a day, but that's because that's the point at which I really, really notice a huge difference in my body. But it has a lot of very powerful herbs, 2 amino acids. It has niacin, not the niacinamide, which is the no flush niacin, but as you know, it has the real niacin, which is vitamin B3 that will, if your capillaries have been closed, then when you take a capsule, you'll feel like a warm flush. I mean, an actual warmth, a heat to right to the skin, because it's blood getting there at 98.6 to an area which maybe has had reduced or almost no blood flow for a long time. Um, well, sorry about that.
That's okay. It's nice music.
Yeah, well, I just there we go. What is on do not disturb? The what's interesting about the super circulation is that the last ingredient on it, and it's the least quantity. I mean, it starts with red rooted sage, which has 400 milligrams in every capsule. Okay, and that's English hawthorn berry, ginkgo leaf, butcher's broom root, conidium seed, motherwort leaf, ginger root, horse chestnut seed, cinnamon bark, cat claws bark. Then the next would be 100 milligrams of L-citrulline, which is a pro arginine. Your body will take L-citrulline and convert it to arginine as needed very easily. And then 50 milligrams of L-arginine, bilberry leaf, white willow bark, cayenne fruit. And the last one on there, because there's only 10 milligrams, is polycosanol. And here I used to think it was so funny that people get so excited about our product and they call up, I'm taking it for the polycosanol. And I thought, okay, but that's the smallest part of everything that's in there. And I hadn't stopped to really look it up. And as I've been studying metabolic health over the last month in real detail, I mean, with the top experts in the world, it turns out that 10 milligrams of polycosanol is so powerful that it's the only nutrient to this point that they're saying that will actually help a person with a metabolic syndrome start to get better and start to get to the point, yep, where their mitochondria will start working again, and where they're not storing fat in their liver, and where they don't have all the problems associated with obesity. 75% of all healthcare costs in the United States all go to 8 diseases, and every one of those 8 diseases are a part of what's called metabolic syndrome. It's when the mitochondria is no longer able to function correctly. So polycosanol in studies, 10 milligrams is the amount that doctors are giving to people to take as a supplement instead of statin drugs.
Well, you know what, Bert, this might be a good time to help our listeners understand there's so many info commercials out there, and they use names like you have in your formula to sell them a story. But then when you look at the amount of milligrams per serving, it's disturbing, especially that they're usually charging double of, like, say, highly reputable products like yours. And what I love about your label, for one capsule, you get real strength of each ingredient, and you put it down right there in parentheses, not like a proprietary blend, and just, hope you have enough. You tell everyone exactly what they're getting of each thing. So thank you for that, because a lot of companies don't do that. So
Yeah, yeah, there's always that danger saying, oh, well, somebody's going to copy the formula because it's all right there. It's exactly how to make it. But they don't, because it turns out that, they'd rather put in some really old expired ingredients and fillers, a lot of fillers that we don't have not even 1/1000% of filler that's in the product. It's like you said, it's just what you have there, and then it's put into a capsule shell, which is truly vegan. It's from fermented tapioca starch, and so it's not just a vegetable capsule that holds all the powder in there that you're going to be, makes it easy to swallow. It's the fact that it doesn't have any chemicals. Veggie caps are 60% chemicals and only 40% vegetables. So they call them a veggie cap when it should be calling it a chemical
yeah.
capsule.
Oh,
It's not even as healthy as a gelatin capsule that comes from beef gelatin, which we had way back in the day, but that was before we could get this organic, totally pure capsule. Now, you don't want to hold it in your mouth that long because the capsule breaks down so quickly that sometimes I'll put it in my mouth and I'm looking for my water glass so I can put some water in to swallow. And if it's in there for a couple of minutes, you can tell that it's just about to disintegrate.
wow.
So it means as soon as it gets into your stomach, it releases all of these amazing ingredients.
Right. Well, Bert, I want to touch back on the polycosanol. So for years, I've always sold that in my cholesterol section. So it's always next to, like, beta sitosterol, the plant sterols. So is it just that they're doing more research, or is it that mechanism that works on your fatty lipid profile and your liver channel, and that's why it's helping all the metabolic syndrome issues? Like, do you know the mechanisms on how the polycosanol works?
Well, yeah, but that's almost a whole hour.
All right. Well, luckily you come
But
on every month.
I will give you the 2-minute version,
Okay.
which is when you have um, split foods, that's where the problems are. In nature, everything is balanced. So on the label, it says 10 milligrams of polycosanol from sugarcane. So in nature, all sugarcane comes with polycosanol because it helps make the sugar not deadly. I mean, sugar, the way we're consuming in not just the United States anymore, the entire world, okay, it's just, it's over 25% damaged hypothalamus, which is obesity. And it's now over 50% of the adults have the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So with the polycosanol being in the sugarcane, it helps to balance out any bad effects from sugar. So now when you're taking it by itself, it goes in and in your body, it's helping to block the ill effects from all the sugars that we get in processed foods.
Uh-huh. Oh, and that makes sense,
So,
right?
so when it's split, it means that there's no such thing as lactose intolerant if you drink whole milk. Now, I'm not saying the whole milk you get from the supermarket because most of that's just been destroyed. But if you go to a dairy where they have the cows and it's whole milk and it's 4% milk fat, okay, even when I have yogurt, I don't do non-fat yogurt. I do 4% whole milk, full fat yogurt. But with that, as long as you have the fat with it, you don't end up having lactose problems because the fat balances out the amount of lactose. And in nature, meaning right when you milk the cow, it has enough of the right fats to prevent any sugar spikes, any problems from the milk sugar, the lactose. Same thing with an egg. Bodybuilders are saying, oh, I just want the protein, so I'm going to eat the egg white. And it turns out that the egg white is not even available to your body if you eat it by itself because it requires a key to unlock the protein, and the key is the yolk. So whenever you have split foods, it just causes such problems. And so with polycosanol coming back in, it's looking for sugar because that's how it was created in nature. And when it does, it helps block that. So that with good fibers, and you've got a way to actually combat the manufactured fructose, which is what's damaging the liver. I mean, really damaging the liver.
Right. Bert, I love it. Back in Boston, when I went to school, I had one teacher that I barely could understand. He was from Japan and barely spoke English, but he would always try to teach us that look in nature, look in nature. How are things naturally created? And when man tries to fractionize it, he always used the word fractionize, like then bad, like he would always be like bad, just look at nature. And you're right, sometimes it's our common sense that kind of escapes us, it's us that's removing the fat, it's us that's changing structures. And because people will tell me, well, my great grandparents, they ate sugar cane and they lived out in Okeechobee. And I'd be like, yeah, the sugar cane they ate was the sugar cane. It wasn't the big bag of processed sugar that removed all the good stuff. So I
Well,
love
yeah,
that you brought
and
that up.
so by eating the sugar cane, they were getting all the polycosanol. I mean, a lot more than 10 milligrams. That's where doctors are kind of starting with people, and then they try to go to 20 milligrams a day and then 30 milligrams a day. And so I told you I'm taking 6 capsules of the super circulation every day, so I'm getting 60 milligrams of polycosanol, which is really, not only is the blood flow better because of all these amazing herbs, as in nature, right? That
Okay.
are doing their job, but I'm getting all of that polycosanol. So it's very, very quickly is it taking care of the wrong sugars that I try to avoid added sugars, when you look at the label, but it's just everywhere. It's just
It is.
everywhere. You talked about smoothies or juice boxes for kids.
Yeah, hit it and everything. Yeah.
And the juice, even if you're juicing it yourself, which is 100 times more healthier than a juice box for a
Still
child,
sugar.
but it's still, the sugar is without any fiber. There's nothing to protect you. It turns out that
Uh,
it's
uh-oh.
been
So
squeezed and has no fiber,
right.
has
The music's on, Bert. Oh no, we're being cut off. Well, once again, yeah, we could just have a we could be like one of those shows that go for 6 hours each morning and just talk and talk. So thank you, and I wish you and your family the best day ever. Happy Valentine's, and I'll see you next month. Thank you, Bert.
Bye.
Everyone, thank you so much for spending time with us. So take care of your heart, love your heart, and I hope you have a week full of gratitude and joy and love. All my best.
You've been listening to Joanne's World of Nutrition with archives on YouTube. Just go to WPSLTV.com. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.